For the past 2 or 3 days, I've been listening to the self-titled My New Band Believe album, which came out just this Friday. And I've been listening to it quite a lot. 3 times today, in fact, and it's 5 o'clock. I've just been listening to it in preparation for this video just because it's so packed full of interesting things and interpretive lyrics and all sorts. Now, it's headed by Cameron Picton of Black Midi, as everyone probably knows who's familiar with the band. And Black Midi broke up last year, sort of midway through last year. It was out of nowhere, really. And then around a month later, Jordy Griep released his New Sound album. And Cameron Picton was on it, I believe, and so was Morgan Simpson, the drummer. Cameron Picton mainly played bass for Black Midi, especially in the live performances. But I'll get onto that a bit shortly because his guitar work, I'm assuming it's his on this album, is probably a highlight. And he'd been performing at the Windmill in Brixton, which has sort of become its own scene. Black Midi have performed there. Jordy Griep has, Black Country New Road, all sorts. Dove Ellis, he's kind of come out of that scene as well, if you're familiar with him. And so he'd been kind of performing some of these shows, and I've gotten most of this information from the Fantano interview that came out last week in preparation for this album. And he was saying, he was kind of performing for the sake of performing and making songs to then go and perform. It wasn't specifically for making an album. But he then decided, I'm going to make an album. And he released a couple of singles, but they are mainly just singles. They're not to do with his album, apart from Love Story, which was announced to be part of the album release. And it was interesting seeing Fantano trying to, he was saying, oh, why isn't this song part of it? And, Cameron seemed pretty he was like, well, it kind of wouldn't fit. It'd probably be one of the better songs on it, but it wouldn't fit. So it clearly was, the album was conceptual. It wasn't out yet when they did the interview, no discredit. But, it's a conceptual album. So there's a lot to break down in terms of it's very unique, it's not just songs leading on to the next and it having a sort of very overall theme, which Cameron talks about in the interview. It has it's a very, very specific sort of theme and vibe to it, one that I've never heard before, to be honest. It is a completely unique experience, and I can't see myself going back to it unless it's listening to the entire album. Maybe the last song, One Night, I really enjoy, and also Love Story. Those two I could see myself maybe going to separately, but it's probably best digested in an entire album experience. And I guess just diving straight into it, it goes in at the deep end with Target Practice, which sort of starts as an intro, and then it becomes a song, and then it flows into the second song, In the Blink of an Eye. It's only 2 minutes long, the first song. The album is 36 minutes long in its entirety, but it seems like a lot more. Within the songs, there's sometimes 2 or 3 songs sort of individually in there. It's not sections, it's completely different at times. There's change-ups that are just all over the place. There's contrasts between sort of moods and instruments and everything. And so Target Practice being in at the deep end, the way, obviously there's sort of very few readings, so a lot of this sort of breakdown of the lyrics mainly will be my interpretation, which, it may develop with time. Some people may see it differently. But they're all fairly sort of interpretive and all over the place. He said in the Fantano interview that there's a lot of contrasts in terms of lyrics. Sometimes he kind of splits between stories or a different theme in one way, sort of a positive way, and then a negative way. And the first song does this, Target Practice, just get around to it. he's kind of explaining how he's sad for someone dying at times, but then also how saying that "Don't cry, you deserve this," which is a repeated lyric, um, and someone being punished almost, or deserving to go through pain or death. And the only thing that comes to mind with this is cancer, is sort of speaking as cancer as a thing, is a a physical, it obviously is a thing, but like making it human and this sort of evil being that, don't cry, you deserve this, you've caused so much pain, sort of thing. And it confuses it because there's kind of it's it's like if you're in the sky and you see me smile, be happy, because like the thinking of the person that's passed on, and then immediately it's "Don't cry, you deserve this." It's very sort of jarring and kind of throws you around. And then the musical accompaniment to this is equally as jarring. We're getting thrown around everywhere. There's sort of builds and falls and lots of strings going on. He does mention who wrote the strings or arranged them. Absolutely gorgeous job. But you're kind of getting thrown around everywhere, and you don't really know what he's talking about until you've listened to it, like 10 times, as I have, over like 3 days. So that's kind of, that's my kind of reading of the first song. And just the cancer theme jumps out. We don't know much about Cameron's personal life. So, maybe he lost a relative due to cancer or something, as most people sadly have. But it leads straight onto the second song, "Blink of an Eye," which I read as life goes quickly, Again, there's "Don't cry, don't scream, it's just a dream." There's a lot of references to sort of a dream world, folklore, which I'll get onto later in some of the songs. And one night, it's as if there's sort of one pivotal night, maybe someone dies suddenly or passes on, or a quick interaction. People come and go in your life in the blink of an eye, as it says. It's kind of sparse lyrically, this song, but the instrumentation is, I can't describe it. Like I can go into it a bit more, but it's such a unique listening experience that you just have to go to. The strings are amazing. His guitar work is unreal. It's actually interesting listening to this album and then going back to his work with Black Midi, especially live shows where you see him playing the bass, and he's playing it like a guitar, almost like Lemmy. He's like a rhythm guitarist but on the bass, because they're a trio, or when they perform live, there's usually 4 of them, or performed. They've gone on hiatus. They're broken up. They have. They're still they're still playing together. I don't know if Morgan Simpson is on this album. There's no sort of, I have no liner notes to go off. But yeah, so the next song, "Heart of Darkness," again, about sort of fleeting interactions with people, fleeting romance potentially. But also, this is where the folklore element comes in. He mentions about a black dog, which is, I believe, I think it's Scottish or Irish folklore. It's representative of the devil. There'd be a witch, so there's like a witch's sort of Sabbath or abode, and there'd always be a black dog patrolling it. I don't know why I know this. I had a little look up to confirm some things, but it's the kind of the instrumentation again. There's loads of sort of little chimes and creaking and like keys. You can hear like keys jangling and stuff. It sounds like you're in like a period piece, like a film. It's very cinematic. The soundscape is similar to like a Robert Eggers film. It's kind of rogue, but I don't. The sound of it sounded like Nosferatu. I don't know, really, or the Northman or something. I was looking at my like Blu-rays when I was back home and saw the Northman. I was like, why did I like think of that? And it's because I've been listening to this album. It reminds me of that for some reason. It places you in that setting. And so the black dog being representative of the devil and references to death and dream life and people dying and afterlife kind of starts to make a bit more sense. Whether he meant any of this, I don't know, but it seems so. The next song, Love Stories, completely throws you off because it is just like a love song. It's really cute to be honest. The piano, I don't know, he probably plays the piano at the start, realistically. It sounds really sort of sinister to start and then kind of somber, and then it sweetens up and his vocals come in. And he's just talking about cooking with like a significant other and that just being an enjoyable experience. And, you know, finding joy in the mundane. And it's got one of my favourite lyrics from it, which is, "My hair's somewhere in my smile," which, you know, you're so sort of comfortable with this person, enjoying time with them. I don't care what hair's doing, you know? I mean, I haven't got that issue, but he's just speaking impersonally as if, you know, because he's not got the longest hair. It's not going to go in his smile. Maybe he did at one point. I don't know. But, you know, it's a bit cheesy. And to sort of go back to what Geordie Greep says about jazz in my first video, talking about Keith Jarrett, sometimes music does have to be a bit cheesy, you know, and it really works here. It's really cute. It's very uplifting. You know, it's been some sort of dark themes already touched on in the lyrics in the album, but it's just, you know, really gorgeous. But it ends on, again, a somber note, saying that it's as if they're getting lost in a storm. They've gone outside. You can literally hear them walk outside. There's rain sounds, keys jangling and everything. And he loses her, or they lose him, whatever. And then it ends with, "I can't find you. You are the love of my life." Maybe this is, you know, yearning for the love of your life, and then you can't find them. It's maybe a struggle. I don't know if Cameron has a partner, though he does say that this is impersonal. The lyrics, it's not sort of from his point of view, and I mean it can't really. It's so sort of subjective, all the lyrics and interpretation. It goes all over the place. I'm looking down at my notebook as usual, which is kind of all over the place to be honest, because so is this album. But so Pearl's the next song. A really interesting stylistic choice in this song is he says "we want," and then there's almost like a voice memo sort of cut off sound from a phone, and that says "I want 1,000,000 years," and the million years is reference to like living for 1,000,000 years. That's it's like you've asked a genie how long you want to live, and he says 1,000,000 years, and the trade-off is meant to be the pearls. He's giving something valuable. But this is it reminds me of, there's I believe it's like Thomas Nagel. It's like a really classic sort of philosophical dilemma, and it's like if you're asked if you want to live for a week or like 10 minutes, you're always going to pick a week, and therefore you're going to want to live forever. You're going to want to live for 1,000,000 years. But, you know, it sounds like, oh yeah, I want to live forever, but then you just get bored, realistically. Life, the finite element of life makes it so special, and that's talked about in the first one. You know, you meet people in the blink of life is over quickly. You don't want it to last forever because you'd just be bored. But also, there's kind of references to swine. There's swine, cows, times in the plant, and wine in this, which again sort of places you back to like some kind of like 1800s times. You know, there's the phone cut off, which is a bit weird, and then with all these strings and interesting sort of cymbal sounds that are kind of, someone sounds like a ritual sort of thing. They're like these little kind of hand cymbals that you'd like play with as a kid. It sounds like, and he, you know, hitting them and then grabbing them and then making like weird noises. There's all sort of, it's almost acousmatic maybe. very interesting. Again, this sort of cinematic aspect it adds. And then this is more so in the previous song in Love Story, but you can hear it in all of them. His vocals have a sort of doubling effect, and it's not like an Elliott Smith way where he's singing exactly the same and it sounds really pleasant. It's kind of off-putting at times. I feel like it's a post effect because it's not like left right. His voice is very much like central in the mix, and it's as if there's sort of two echoes like just behind him, but it's at the same time. It's really weird. I don't know how they've done it, but it sounds really interesting. It adds this kind of it's like a voice in your head sort of thing. And then so the next song, Opposite Teacher, is about sort of learning lessons about bad things or through bad experiences. I feel like it's a pretty on the nose thing. It's a very clever title, to be honest, Opposite Teacher. But also making the most of what you have. Says I'm not rich, and everything starts with a breath. Links back to just a love story, enjoying time together, just cooking and things like this. The best things in life are free. And chasing the wrong things. He's kind of the final lyric is I was chasing a picture of you as an old man. When you're old, you kind of you're meant to have your life all in order. You retire, you live a comfortable life, but that's not what happens when you're young. Cameron Picton's only 26, 27. He's not too much. I believe Joey. Yeah, it's 26, 27. Very young, whole life ahead of him. Whole career ahead of him, and hopefully this will kick it off realistically. And Actress, the next song, kind of leads on from Opposite Teacher, saying that I envy you, you never tell the truth, and that which is contrasted later, or through the second half of the song. This has a lot of contrasts in it, saying that I feel for you, and saying similar things but the opposite from the start. And this is the contrast that he talks about in the interview. Lots of rises and falls in this song as well, contrast, and it's about being authentic. He's I envy you, you never tell the truth, and then he's feeling for her or them because they never tell the truth either. They can't sort of live authentically. They're an actress. There's like a mask on them. It's like a dream reference somehow, I guess. It's not really, but There's also a synth in this song, randomly. There's like a little synth at the end. But a few lyrics that stand out in this one is that breathing oxygen, but it doesn't make it to your brain. It's just kind of calling this person dumb because they're, lying all the time. And there's the repeated I know you will. This is kind of the closest we get to a chorus, I guess, or a repeated motif in the entire album. He's saying that I know you will. And maybe he's speaking of being in a relationship and it's kind of a double standard. He's kind of, constantly apologizing or making excuses for this person, or he's understanding. I don't know, it seems like that sort of thing. It's like, oh, I know you'll do this for me, but not actually. The fact that it's repeated, it gets monotonous, and you don't believe him. You don't believe this person is going to do it because of this repetition. And talking about how he envies this person because they lie all the time, and then saying, well, I actually feel for you because you lie all the time. It's very interesting. It has a very large build-up. What's he saying? I know you will. And it kind of cuts off completely into One Night, the final song, which is probably my favourite one. And again, this is it's an actual song sort of thing. It doesn't end and have loads of stuff leading on from the end of it. Heart of Darkness has this sort of lumbering guitar line, sort of feels like you're kind of swaying in a ship. And then the end of Actress has a similar thing. It's like 2 minutes of just purely instrumental and different sort of cymbal sounds. It's really off-putting. and kind of makes you reflect on everything. I feel like Actress is the uh, uh, sort of spiritual last song, and then One Night is the actual one, but it kind of wraps it up quite nicely. I feel like that's quite common with albums, having like a really long sort of penultimate song and then having a last one. It can be a song itself, but also an outro. And this kind of feels like that, but it's a really nice song in itself. And this is talking about how people aren't what he expected. Not through lying, but through finding out that they're not. It's linked to Opposite Teacher in a sense. But he's talking about how his father isn't who he expected, or I'm assuming father. It's sort of a little bit ambiguous, but you're not the man I took you for. That kind of that's the lyric that gets repeated, and again, this kind of has two sort of verses, choruses. That's why it feels like a finished song, as it were. But also, again, there's a contrast with talking about how he meets a woman and she's smoking and he doesn't like that. And he's kind of taken aback by it. As much as he's taken aback by, oh, you're not the man I thought you were, you know, his reality is sort of skewed. And again, we don't know what his relationship with people in general is, or with his family, but this could be impersonal. You know, he says it's impersonal, but it's fairly relatable. You know, people turn out to be not who we expect them to be all the time, and an interesting part of the woman who's smoking and he doesn't like that is that he says, "Oh, I thought it was only for a night, but it's not." He's not got any power in this situation, and she is stealing my light. He talks about, and that kind of has two. I guess it has a bit of a double meaning. That is, you know, seeing the light to light the cigarette, but also stealing his light because he doesn't agree with doing this sort of morally. He thought it was maybe a one night sort of situation, but it blossomed into something else, and he's now sort of being drained by this relationship. He's not getting anything from it. It's not beneficial for him, and maybe this is the person that he's talking about in Opposite Teacher. But it's a really interesting one to end it on, and it's a very good, like, this could have been a single. It's weird to do the last song as a single release, but really, really interesting. So there's been themes of death, envy, pride, folklore, and dreams. Touches on quite a lot of things, and the album cover itself it looks like a sort of folklore painting. It looks like a piece of parchment that's been found from whenever. I can't really quite see it, but it's just cool. There's like fire in that. There's fire sounds in a few of these songs. I think it's in Pearls. You can hear like fire sounds, bit random. And yeah, a very cinematic sort of vibe. I wouldn't say I wouldn't say musical theatre, because it's not. It's more sort of serious. There's no comedic elements at all. It's just very on the nose. It feels like a period drama turned into music form, and a very extremely unique listening experience. I can't say I've ever heard anything that's similar to this. I guess stylistically at times it's similar to some Black Country New Road, but you know, they work together, so that's going to happen anyway. And just the instrumentation is absolutely gorgeous, so unique as well. There's like an iPhone sound in there. As I said, there's like synth paired with strings, lots and lots of strings. I want to know who the arranger for that was. I believe Cameron probably wrote it, but there was a lot of collaborative effort. It would be very interesting to see the sort of list of people involved with it. I know I seen an interview where he was saying that he was just trying to get everyone he can involved with it, because he didn't have that much budget. And so he was like selling CDs of like EPs that he'd written for the live shows, and there was like £10 people would have them, and they just used that for like studio space and everything. and just getting as many people involved for free. And it's that kind of, I guess that's like just having session musicians come in. But for something so unique, and then also being involved with the whole windmill scene thing, it's very cool and very, very sort of promising. It's he kind of speaks quite negatively, it seems, of the Black MIDI experience when it was coming to an end, and how it would be like 80% talking, 20% actually doing, whereas he would rather just do, and then talk after about it, I guess, or not. He seems like quite a quiet guy, very nice guy. But yeah, it's my new band, Believe. I'd say I definitely believe. So yeah, that's it.